Hey, what's going on, guys? So, I'm currently working to fix the issues that the audio had in this video. We tried a new method of recording, maybe that's the issue, but my microphone definitely felt or seemed very spotty throughout this video. So, please, if you can forgive me for that, that'd be great. Thank you. Hey, what's going on, guys? Rob here, and welcome back to the Omakecast. And today we're talking about one of my favorite films of all time, and definitely my favorite anime film of all time, The Wind Rises. And today I'm joined by my friend Ian.
Hello.
So we're gonna start off talking about the legacy that we have with like Studio Ghibli, like our history behind us consuming their media. So you can start off, Ian.
Okay. Well, my story with Ghibli started in 2009 when I saw Ponyo in cinemas. And considering I mostly grew up with Disney, DreamWorks, and Pixar stuff, it really woke me up as to what hand-drawn animation could do.
Yeah,
Also, I still maintain that it's a better version of A Little Mermaid.
I Ponyo is fantastic. A lot of people like to hate on it and say, "Oh, it's too childish and stuff," but I think it's a masterpiece
It's
personally.
legitimately one of my favorite movies ever. I can't get enough of it.
How many times do you think you've seen it?
About like five or six. I also saw it in theaters again a couple months ago.
Aren't they going to show it again for Ghibli Fest as
They
well?
did show it for Ghibli Fest. There's no
Oh,
more
okay.
showings.
Damn. Hmm. Well, I guess I'll start with my story then. Well, mine's a little bit more longer and takes place further back in the past, about probably like 3 or 4 years before you. This was in 2006. Uh, Toonami had this month of Miyazaki showcase where they showed Spirited Away, Castle in the Sky, Princess Mononoke, and Nausicaa, the Valley of the Wind. I watched Spirited Away and I watched part of Princess Mononoke, but Spirited Away I watched. I remember flipping through the channels, and Cartoon Network was my go-to channel back then. I watched them over Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, the other two kids channels. I just loved Cartoon Network as a kid. That was my channel. I watched Toonami. I watched Naruto pretty much on a weekly basis. Other things I watched on there was Pokemon, and I remember watching a little bit of One Piece and Bobobo, and maybe a little bit of Zatch Bell, but that's it. Mostly Naruto. But when I saw Spirited Away, I instantly could tell like this distinct difference from the anime that I watched before and now. Like it like completely like shifted my perspective and made me want to consume more anime because it was like, what is this? I need to find more things like this.
I was the
And
same. After I saw Ponyo in 2009, I wasn't actually aware what Ghibli was. It wasn't until 2012 when I saw Arrietty that I was aware of their existence.
did you see that as well in theaters?
Yeah, I did actually.
Mhm.
I think
I
it's
did as well.
alright. It's a nice movie.
Yeah. Was that Yonobashi's first film?
Yeah, it is Yone Bayashi's first film.
Okay. I thought so. Yeah. I like that movie as well, but at that point, I was fully aware what Studio Ghibli was.
Yeah, same
Um,
here. That year I got basically the rest of her films.
hmm So from Spirited Away, I remember a couple nights or like a week later when Mononoke came on. I remember watching a little bit of it, but since I was so young at the time, in 2006, I was 7 years old.
Yeah.
So I watched. I remember how violent it was, and I think one of my parents walked in my room and they told me to turn it off because it was like Princess Mononoke is significantly more violent than Spirited Away is.
Yeah.
So
Heads getting
yeah,
chopped off and whatnot.
I remember the part where it was uh, Prince Takihata. Is that his
Ashitaka.
name? Ashitaka. Yeah, he was going into the Iron Kingdom or the Iron Town, and he saw Princess Mononoke with a mask on, and she's just going around slaughtering people. Remember that scene?
I remember that actually.
Yeah, that's when my parents came in and said, "Yeah, this is too violent," and I had to turn it off. Now, from there, though, I wasn't aware of what Studio Ghibli was for many years until actually, I think I was watching Disney Channel as a kid. When did Ponyo come out? Like 2008 in
2009,
theaters?
but 2008 in Japan.
Okay. I remember they showed like a trailer for it on TV, and I instantly like knew where this came from. Like this it felt very familiar to Spirited Away and Mononoke that I remembered
Yeah,
as a
I
kid
remember a
a
ton
couple
of
years
ads.
prior, and I was like, wow. So I looked into it, and then I was like not surprised to find out that it was made by the same people, and that's how I got fully engrossed into Ghibli. Is from Ponyo. It made me discover other stuff, you know.
Mhm.
But that's my history, and from there on, I basically watched Ponyo. I watched most of the films. I've still yet to watch um, Princess Kaguya and When Marnie's There, but I've seen every other one.
I've seen every Ghibli film, unless you count Ocean Waves. I haven't seen that yet.
Isn't there that one with the celloist, like that short film?
Yeah, but that was before Ghibli was formed. Isao
Oh,
Takahata directed that.
uh, but yeah, that's my history. Is it? Do you have anything else to add?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to mention Takahata's death. It
All
kind
right.
of devastated me considering I have almost as much of a connection with his works as I do Miyazaki.
Uh, what can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, yeah, I can. I think the first film I saw of his was Only Yesterday. It's rather
Okay.
ignored when it comes to other Ghibli films, but I loved how it depicted childhood and what it means to mature and look towards the future. The ending still gets me really emotional, especially.
True. Yeah, I definitely agree with you. That movie's great. But I saw Grave of the Fireflies at a pretty young age too, because after I saw Ponyo, I started watching more. So I was probably like 11 or 12 at this point when I watched Grave of the Fireflies, and that movie, being so young, it just sunk in the back of my head, and it like really hit me on how like devastating war was. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's a really depressing movie, and it's so
Yeah.
well told. I'm actually about to rewatch it tonight.
I haven't watched it honestly in probably 4 or 5 years, so I'm definitely due for a rewatch. But I actually plan on watching all the Studio Ghibli films in order, starting from Nausicaa and ending
Same here, I
with
might
When
do the
Marnie is
same this
there.
summer before I go to college.
Yeah. But yeah, I was very upset with that. The Takahata pass, but he definitely was a genius in the anime industry,
Yeah, he
and
definitely left his mark.
hmm he will always be like remembered as one of the greats, and it's kind of sad because we're losing a lot of the like great directors are either retired now or passed away, you know.
Hmm.
And it is definitely sad to lose another one. And I wasn't he like planning to do more work too.
I don't think so. Kaguya was his first work in about, like, almost more than a decade.
Hmm, that's interesting.
Yeah, he, like, takes long breaks in between movies.
Yeah, I still need to watch that film at some point, but I'll get
Kaguya is
around to it.
fantastic. I hope you enjoy it.
It looks fantastic, and that's also the movie that's keeping me from watching the Ghibli documentary because I know they featured a lot of that, and I wanted to watch it before I dived into that film. But yeah, that's my thoughts.
So, I should we move on to how we felt when we first saw the movie?
Yeah, did you watch it in theaters?
Yeah, I did see it in theaters. I was eagerly
Yeah,
anticipating it.
yeah. I was. It was definitely a bittersweet film. Is the best way to describe it because I like knew I was going to be upset after this because I was like, all right, this is it. This is the end. Because like he like announced that this was going to be his last film, and and this film kind of felt like it should be his last film. Just the tone of it and the way it portrays an artist's life, and I just felt like the perfect way to like end his career, in my opinion. But obviously, that's not the case anymore.
Yeah,
I'm glad we're
sadly.
getting more Miyazaki, but it's still like this was the perfect film he could have ended his career on. And I remember being so excited to see this movie, and it is one of the films that not very many movies have made me cry, but this one definitely did at the end. And another one is recently Lady Bird, which also made me cry, but not many things do. And in order for something to do that to me, I consider it to be, I put it to high regards because it pulls with your emotions. It's beautifully animated. It's just a masterpiece in every sense of the word. It's a beautiful film. And if you haven't seen this movie and you're somehow watching this, just go ahead and watch it. It's very impactful, I think, though, if you've watched everything else this man has created before this,
I
because
absolutely agree.
it's just the perfect ending, you know? It's incredible that he was able to put together something like this.
I really do wish that he did stop at The Wind Rises. Like, I still
Yeah,
love the movie, but I feel like the impact is sort of lessened now that we know that he's doing another movie.
yeah. How Do You Live, I believe it's called.
It's actually called. It's actually a caterpillar movie. I forgot the name of the caterpillar though.
Wait, isn't that the CGI short
Yeah,
that he was in?
it was in the Ghibli Museum.
Yeah, yeah. But How Do You Live is like the next feature
Hmm.
film that he's making. And isn't it supposed to be like fantasy too? Like it's fantasy based. I read something about that online.
Yeah, apparently.
Based off a novel as well. Like it wasn't Wind Rises based off of like like the biography of
Jiro
Jiro.
Horikoshi. Yeah,
Yeah,
it was loosely based off his life.
I'm sure there's some things that in that film that made it, over exaggerated his life. I'm sure I haven't really looked into his life personally. I've only seen what's from the movie. So
Yeah, it's a romanticized autobiography.
yeah. By the way, the romance in this film is also just really great.
It
You can
is.
definitely see the connection between Jiro and what's his girlfriend's name or wife's name? Do you remember?
Naoko is her name.
Okay, no, okay, yeah.
I
I couldn't
definitely
remember
agree
from the
with the
top of my head.
romance. It's beautiful. It's
Hmm.
actually one of my favorite anime romances. I don't really agree when people say it's half baked or underdeveloped.
Yeah, I don't agree either. It definitely is developed, and you can definitely like feel the grief that he starts to get towards the end of the film when he finds out that she's getting sick and stuff, and it's just you feel it. You can
Yeah.
empathize with the character,
The
and
scene where she was coughing blood actually left me breathless.
yeah, like it's. Were you expecting that when you watched the film? Did you
Absolutely
like?
not, actually. Like, we see Jiro getting a phone call, and then his boss tells him, Jiro, your wife has tuberculosis, and then it cuts to this shot with no sound, and it's just her violently coughing blood over her painting.
Yeah, and she was on the hill, and like that was the first spot they actually saw each other, and it's just wow.
It's
I
really
remember
heart
that.
wrenching.
I know. Yeah, that whole romance was definitely very well put together. Probably the best Ghibli romance. Like there really isn't much, but it's the best one.
I guess there's Chihiro and Haku, but it's not really a
Yeah.
romance.
Yeah, it's more of a friendship, I feel. Um yeah, so next what did you want to talk about? The
The opening scene, actually.
okay. Yeah, the dream sequences and stuff.
Yeah,
Is that what you're referring to?
the movie immediately grabbed me with the quote, "The wind is rising. We must live."
What do you think that like exactly means? Like what do you
Actually,
think
that's
to
a
you,
bit
what
of a
does that
tough
mean?
question. I feel like what it means is that no matter what happens, even when life gets hard or tumultuous, we have to keep on going, moving forward, and living.
I guess that definitely does play with the themes of the movie then, because you have this guy is going through. He's not only just trying to become this great artist in the form of an engineer and design these phenomenal planes, but he's also has to overcome the stuff that he has to do with his wife and how she gets sick and stuff. So
And how the country of Japan is using
yeah,
his work.
yeah, for essentially killing people. So it definitely is. Uh, it definitely is a interesting thing to think about that this man has created these planes. Like uses an art form, but in all reality, it's just an instrument to kill someone.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
it really plays into the themes of the movie and how, like you said, it feels bittersweet. Jiro
Hmm.
is this man who wants to create planes because he loves creating and wants to share that with the world, and then the world is perverting it.
Yeah, it's definitely something like that you start to think of throughout the course of the film, especially if you know like what these planes were eventually used for, which were the Pearl Harbor incident. A lot of the planes he designed, I correct me if I'm wrong, but I know some of the planes he designed were used for Pearl Harbor and stuff.
Yeah, the Zero fighter was used in Pearl
Yeah,
Harbor.
so that's definitely one thing to think about is uh, different perspectives that this movie puts you in a different perspective. I guess a lot of people think of a World War II Japan as these soldiers and this country. It was just a disaster, but it
And
gives you a
that
different perspective. You know?
the people in Japan are just people like anywhere
Yeah,
else.
yeah. Especially because in our country, you know, we had slang terms for them, and we just seemed to hate them during that time.
Yeah, we
Uh,
demonize them. Even though they
yeah.
did something awful, we weren't much better, honestly.
We had we had our own camps that we put them in. You know, it's kind of like people don't like realize that we did bad things too. So did they. Everyone does. Everyone's human, and I think that you realize that when you watch this film that everyone's human. You know.
Exactly.
But back to the opening scene. We got a little bit sidetracked,
Yeah,
but
the opening scene's beautiful. It's probably one of my favorite openings to a Ghibli film.
hmm the music, and I particularly remember the scene with Jiro lying on the ground, and you see the reflection of the planes in the sky, and he all of a sudden he's in this dream where he sees this character who is his idol, who he looks up to, and you go from this scene where he's looking up to this guy, where eventually he's creating these planes, and he became this artist, well-known artist, just like his hero from the past, and that's very impactful. You know, it definitely is a journey. Like you go through this film, a journey of an artist just starting out to where he becomes a master at his craft, and even beyond that, because there's that scene where he talks to what's that Italian guy's name? His
Caproni.
hero,
Caproni's his
Caproni.
name.
Yeah, I knew there was a song named after him in the film as well. But yeah, it's you can see this, and it gets to the point where he's past his prime, and he talks to Caproni, and that's kind of just such the greatest feeling because he looks back on his career.
Mm.
You know what
And
I'm
it's
talking
so
about, that
poetic. I
scene.
know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
One of the
and
scenes. Oh, you can go on.
this reflects Miyazaki's career. Like they're not the same person, but they have they're very similar characters. Well, the Miyazaki and Jiro are very similar people in terms of their art. You know what I mean?
I tend to see the movie as Miyazaki's most reflective film. It definitely feels
Yeah.
like him reflecting on his work and himself as a person.
hmm Like it's almost like I feel like when he made this film, like he put himself in the shoes of Jiro, and it definitely is. If you watched all of Miyazaki's films and you see this, it almost is like a culmination of all his work. You know,
Hmm.
it's great.
Like I was saying before, one scene that stuck with me was when Jiro was standing on top of a plane with Caproni, And then he asks, Mr. Caproni, can I ask you a question? I want to build
Yeah.
airplanes, but how can I do that if I can't fly one? I'm blind. I'm. Wait, he didn't say he was blind. He
He
was
just had
nearsighted.
glasses, yeah, nearsighted.
And then Caproni said, Boy, do you know how many airplanes I've flown in my life? Not one. Never one.
Yeah, that scene definitely was like it's inspirational, you know. Like it really shows that no matter what, like you have like any like disability or any like problem, you can always work towards your dream no matter what it is.
Exactly. Having passion is important.
Yeah. And I'm sure for Miyazaki, who was someone who was in Japan and trying to become an artist, you know, it must be a hard thing to get into,
Yeah,
consider like to get to especially to get to the level where he ended up being probably the greatest person working in anime, the most well known. So he came from basically being a nobody to the greatest animator in Japan.
exactly.
And
And with Japan's recent economic downturn, it's really impressive with how great Miyazaki's work ethic is.
Mhm. He went through several different economic periods of Japan too,
Mm-hmm.
like even like through the 90s where there was the the anime industry, well, not necessarily the anime industry, but just the economy in Japan was bad. You still see him putting out something like Princess Mononoke, you know. It just really is impressive. And Princess Mononoke ended up becoming one of the highest grossing films in their country.
Yeah, it was the highest grossing film in Japanese history until
Hmm.
Titanic, then Spirited Away, overtook it.
Hmm. Now, what has it? Is Your Name number
Yeah,
one now?
your name's number one now, regrettably.
Yeah, I don't think it really holds a candle to done,
I'm
but
not a big
ever did. But
Shinkai fan, but that's for another story.
yeah. But yeah, that it's just impressive what Miyazaki has done, and it's reflected in the film as well. And so next topic, we're gonna talk about just the planes in the film. So I'll let you
Yeah.
start with this.
One of the reasons this is one of my favorite movies is that ever since I was little, flight has always fascinated me. I've always loved planes, spaceships, anything related to the sky.
And would you say like this film is one of the best uh, anime productions that has planes and like aircrafts in it, like animation wise, like depict.
For sure, it depicts flight in such an elegant, beautiful way. It still astounds me every time I see it.
Yeah, like this film being set pre World War II. A lot of people, when they think of planes during that time, they're just tools of destruction, you know. But this shows them more in a artful way. There's really no scenes where it's depicted as something as a tool of war
Yeah,
that's used later in Grave of the Firefly or before in Grave of the Fireflies. But this
yeah.
film shows that
Um,
just just how beautiful they can be.
Definitely. Flight is a recurring motif throughout Miyazaki's work.
Yep. Porco Rosso was another film that I think did very well or in depicting flight.
I
Um,
agree.
which Porco Rosso top four Ghibli films, but that's for another video.
For sure,
um,
Porco Rosso's great. I can't wait to
I,
see it again this month.
I know it's incredibly underrated
And the
for what it
score
is.
is so good.
I know it's one of the best Ghibli OSTs. Definitely. Wind Rises though is the best Ghibli OST, but we'll talk about that right now. Actually, what do you think of the OST as a
The
whole?
score is fantastic, though actually I prefer Mononoke's.
Really,
Yeah,
Mononoke is beautiful as well, but the reason why I like Wind Rises more is just it just if you ever listen to the OST like on its own, like it feels like you are reliving the film again.
Yeah, I
And
have the OST.
you can't really say that much about many films. And I think this film just has the perfect OST where you can just listen to it when you're doing anything and it just makes you feel good.
Yeah, I agree. I especially love the track near the end where we see Jiro seeing all the Zero fighters flying into the sky for wartime.
Hmm. Hmm. I agree. I like the Caproni theme song as well.
So do I.
Uh, Another one is Journey. It's another great OST.
Journey's amazing.
It has just a lot of instruments are used in this film. You have Italian music, you have heavy violin, heavy orchestra music, and at the end you have that theme song or the main theme song of the film, which is also
Hikoki
very good.
Uno.
Hmm. And it just at that point when that song clicks in, that's when the tears start coming out of your eyes. You know that this film was a masterpiece and
It
just a
makes
great
me
song to
choke
end the
up
film.
every time,
Yeah, I
seriously.
know. It's just the first like 10 notes, like hearing that, it's just like, oh, you know it's the end. And it's terrible. But it's amazing.
I
Yeah.
remember seeing it in theaters and hearing that song, and I couldn't stop crying.
I know it was so sad because like at the time you thought this was the end, you know,
Hmm.
and it was just so beautiful.
Like, nobody else was talking when the movie ended. It was just pure silence.
Hmm. How many people were in your theater when you saw
I
this? Was it
think
packed?
about 20-ish, which
Hmm.
is weird because Ponyo was a full house when I saw it.
Same, actually. But that film I think was more marketable
Accessible.
considering. Yeah, it was more. Disney could market it easier because of what it is. You
The
know, it's a
Wind
kids' film.
Rises also got a much more limited release.
Yeah. It probably because I already and Ponyo were seen as these. You could make them into these if you wanted to. Disney could like really make them into blockbuster Disney films because they would just work that way as films.
Yeah,
You know, just they would work as Disney films if they're animated by Disney. Still work fine, I guess. You know.
yeah, that's understandable.
Hmm. But yeah, what Ponyo and I already definitely had the widest release out of all the Ghibli films. But yeah, I wasn't around when Spirit. Well, I was around, just was very little when Spirit Boy came in theaters. I don't know how
Yeah, I
limited
didn't
that
see
was.
it.
Neither did I. But yeah, next, what do you want to talk about?
The fact that it lost to lost to Frozen at the Oscars.
Oh yeah.
That actually
Um,
made me fuming. I was watching the Oscars live that night with my family.
I do think Wind Rises definitely is a way better film than Frozen because it's like my favorite animated film of all time. Silent Voice is a close second, but
Silent
I
Voice
was
is
pretty
amazing.
pissed. Yeah, I love Silent Voice, but when I saw that, I wasn't really surprised though because like considering how popular Frozen was, you
Yeah,
know.
and the Oscars are naturally biased towards Disney.
Hmm. I know, but that was like the last chance, you know, of another anime film winning an Oscar.
That,
But
I mean,
I feel like any other year when Rises, if it was there, it would have won.
Princess Kaguya also lost to Big Hero 6 for some reason.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. That's weird too. Hmm. And it was also weird that this year that there was no anime films at all,
Yeah, that's
and
shocking.
everything was
Like,
like Boss
no,
Baby.
know your name or a silent voice? What?
Not even Night is Short Walk On Girl, which I definitely believe should have deserved to have a spot there.
I
Like
hope
that
Blue
film
Over
is
the Wall
incredible.
gets nominated.
What for next year?
Yeah, it's getting released this month in the US.
Oh, see, Night is Short though. Even though it hasn't been released like physically here, like it got a theater release, like a theatrical release already. So that's why I thought it would have got nominated last year. but whatever.
Yeah,
Didn't they submit your name? Was
they did, but Funimation messed it up, so it wasn't nominated.
What was the story with that? Like how Funimation messed it up? I don't remember that.
They didn't release it in enough theaters during Oscar time.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's why Boss Baby got nominated. Because
That is still...
there simply wasn't anything else, I guess.
Remember when Shark Tale got nominated?
No, how long ago? That was probably what, 15
2004.
years ago?
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. That's
Okay.
ridiculous.
Moral of the story: the Oscars are a joke, and so are most award shows.
The Crunchyroll Awards.
Don't you mean the My Hero Academia
Yeah.
Awards?
Yeah. That was just insane.
At least made the best one anime
I
of the
know.
year.
I was
Rightfully so.
surprised. I was surprised.
I was too. It's like they pulled a trap card on us.
They're like, you know what? Let's just give this let's just give it to them. Like My Hero Academia just won like everything. Like everybody was expecting that to happen. Like
How
what the
did
hell?
My Hero Academia win Best Animation over A Silent Voice, which is a feature film?
I know. Like My Hero Academia does have good animation. Still, like Silent Voice, like it doesn't hold a candle to Silent Voice.
Also, Kekai Sensen and Beyond lost Best Action to My Hero.
I don't like Kekai Sensen Beyond though personally.
Yeah, neither do I, but at least some of the
That's
action was good.
that's for another video though.
Yeah,
That's
we're
for
getting
not,
off
we'll talk
topic.
about that. We'll definitely talk about that another time because that still pisses me off to this day. That
I'd love
show.
to talk about Kekai Sensen sometime.
Yeah, the Kekai Sensen, the first season is top 10 anime for me. I love that series.
It's one of my
Personally.
favorites as well.
Like it's perfect. But we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah.
We need to talk.
About The Wind Rises.
So let's talk about the powerful shots and little moments now. What is the most powerful shot you feel in this entire film, other than the one scene with his wife, Jiro's wife?
I feel like the most powerful shot in the film is when we see Jiro and Caproni on top of a plane, and then we see Jiro's paper airplane flying in the sky.
Yeah, that definitely that's one of the ones I was thinking about as well. But another one that I thought about, like considering like moments in the film, is just when Jiro is going to the hotel, you know, and near the end of the film, and how things just seem peaceful, you know.
Yeah.
Just seeing these characters interact in this escape in this place in the middle of the woods in the wilderness. This beautiful landscapes all around him, and you see Jiro just talking to these different people about maybe his career and other things. Just the small things there, just like seeing life happen and him reflecting upon his life while he's there at this getaway place, and him meeting his wife and settling down with her eventually, you know. It's just the film portrays a person's life perfectly.
It does.
You know?
Miyazaki is a really deliberate director. Like, he pays attention to the smallest things that no other director would possibly do. It really makes his worlds feel alive.
Yeah, it feels like a believable place, even though it does exist, but it's fictional Japan still. But it feels like this world is connected. These people, these characters that interact with each other, it just flows perfectly, and they portray conversations perfectly as well. It doesn't feel like these people are acting. It doesn't feel like it's even animated. It just feels realistic, you know.
It does.
Even though it's an animated film. And it's probably the most realistic anime film I've ever seen, you know.
I
In
agree.
that sense.
Like, it feels more realistic than Shinkai's most films where he tries to always replicate reality.
But you can tell with Shinkai's films that you are watching anime, you know. sometimes when you watch like a Miyazaki film, you kind of it doesn't feel the same as every other anime that's out there. It feels
Like
like
the way his
more,
characters move, like they
yeah.
feel like how an actual person would move.
Hmm. You know, it's not like as animated. It's more, even though it is animated, it's just basically like he came up with a way to animate humans in a more realistic way. You know.
Hmm. Also, there's this particularly beautiful scene I really like. It's when Jiro is going to this. He's sailing into his hotel, and he sits
Hmm.
down and he's lying on the floor, and these people are playing like tennis, I think. And he's imagining a plane flying in the sky, and then
Hmm.
it eventually breaks down, and it goes along with the sound of the ball going around. It's
Hmm.
really beautiful.
That's another one of the scenes where you can definitely like tell that this man's reflecting upon his career. You know,
Hmm. He's
and
afraid of failure.
mhm. Another scene that I particularly like is the scene with the paper airplane and his wife, like
Naoko,
on that balcony. Yeah, Naoko on the balcony,
it's such a
and
nice little scene.
yeah, it's just it's nothing like super deep or anything, but it's just like it's just like happiness, you know. This
Yeah,
guy is found this girl, you know.
it's a
It
much
perfectly,
needed moment of levity in an otherwise serious film.
yeah, yeah. And it's also very well animated, and it's probably one of the more cartoony parts of the film, just the way that he was moving when he was just trying to catch the hat, you
Yeah,
know.
and then he runs into the bush. Then Naoko's
Hmm.
like, "Nice catchy."
Yeah, that I love that scene. But another one that I'm thinking about Naoko is just when she's in the kimono and they're getting married. Like you can definitely tell, you could see their relationship and their love for each other perfectly in that scene.
She
You know.
looked unbelievably beautiful there.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it's something that like you don't really realize that until the scene. You know, it like convinces the audience.
And the best part is there was just no music.
Hmm. It was silent and it was great. And you see the stars in the night, and it just and she was glowing. You know, it was
Yeah,
just perfect. It was amazing.
Miyazaki always uses silence so well. Like whenever the deer
Hmm.
god showed up in Mononoke.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I and like when the deer gods like walk, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Oh my god,
creating
that's
and living, like creating life and then dying right after.
hmm wow. Mononoke, another masterpiece. All his I consider all his films just masterpieces, honestly. Like they're just perfect. I just can't really think of any faults with any of them. Especially Wind Rises, though. I it's like 100% perfect to me. You know.
It's him at his peak, in my opinion,
Hmm.
as well.
Hmm. Um, do you have any other scenes that come to mind?
Actually, I do. Another scene I want to bring up is when. Actually, the ending. That's what I want to talk about. Back when I saw the movie in theaters, it did me the actually initially confused.
Really, why is that?
Well, I understand it now, but I didn't know why Naoko died in that way, just her blowing away.
Like, what do you interpret it now? Like, what? Like, how? What made you understand it though?
I feel like what made me understand it, though, is the quote at the beginning of the film: "The wind is rising, we must live." Even though Jiro lost her loved one, he has to find a way to go on to live life by himself.
And that's just that makes me feel empty. You know,
It
like it
does.
almost makes me feel lonely. Now that I'm thinking about that scene, and I think that's what initially made me so sad.
The
Is that
film is,
someday you might be lonely like that, you know?
yeah, but there's always sunshine after the rain. Even though the
Hmm.
film is bittersweet, it has a very powerful message to it.
Hmm. It really is just the perfect story of this artist's life. And that's I hope we convinced you guys that this film what this film means from Miyazaki's career. I think that's the most important thing to understand about it
It's a
and
love
what
letter
we've
to
been
those who
emphasizing.
dream.
Yeah, and it just really is a phenomenal film. And if you're a Ghibli fan or Miyazaki fan, just watch this film all the time. It's great.
I actually do want to mention something. It was the quote at the beginning of the film. It actually kind of connects to Princess Mononoke, or more or less the ending of that film.
What is that?
At the end, when everything returns to normal and nature is restored,
Hmm.
Ashitaka tells San that the forest spirit is trying to tell us something. It's telling us that we have to live.
Yeah, you're right. That does connect. Now that I think about it. I never thought about that before.
Makes sense for two of his
Yeah.
greatest works.
Hmm. Wow. I actually, now that you mentioned that, that like really opened up my eyes about. Never thought about that.
Yeah, it's actually like that's why I was saying about attention to detail. I feel like Miyazaki was aware of that.
Yeah. Jeez. That even like makes me like think that wow, you have to watch this movie like after you watch this other stuff. 'Cause it is the culmination of his work. It is his life's work, basically. And that's the most important thing when I think about The Wind Rises. Um, and it is sad that it isn't his last film, but I'm glad it exists. You
So
know,
do I.
yeah. When I originally saw this film back in 2014, I was a little bit upset that it wasn't, more of a fantasy-based Ghibli film. But now looking back on it, I'm glad what it is. I'm glad
Yeah,
to see what it is.
I feel like it became greater to me as I grow up.
Hmm. Yeah, because back then, I was just a little 15-year-old kid, just being like, yeah, I just want another fantasy like Ghibli film, maybe a little bit of action.
Same
But
here.
like now it's just like now this is what I want out of anime.
At that age, we're always more interested in escapism than facing reality.
Hmm. Yeah. But that's pretty much all we have to say unless you have anything else to
Actually,
add.
one thing, the sound design. The sound design in this movie is absolutely incredible.
Hmm. Not just the actual soundtrack, but just like the subtle moments,
Yeah,
that sound
or
is used in the
or
film.
the sounds. They're done by like people making noises with their mouth, and it really
Hmm.
adds to the overall experience.
A one scene that I remember or that is used is the earthquake scene. You know what I'm
Yeah,
talking about? When you
the
see
earthquake
the,
scene.
not
Yeah,
only is that beautifully animated, it also has incredible sound design. When you see the railroad tracks rising up and down, it's a very unrealistic looking earthquake. When you think of an earthquake, like you just think of things shaking around you, but in this film, the earth moves up and down, and it's very well animated, and the sounds incredible. You know,
like another one was like the ground cracking before the
yeah.
earthquake started, and it was like
Hmm. Yeah, that whole scene is just incredible too. Like, wow.
the more I talk
Uh,
about this movie, the more I love it.
yeah, I know. I actually have a giant Wind Rises poster in my room,
Lucky,
which is
I
pretty
want it.
cool. Yeah, there was this Disney rewards program, and I got it through that, and it's massive. It's just a picture of Jiro and his wife kissing in front of her painting. You know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about?
I already know that poster. It's the
Yeah.
American one.
That's the one I have. But yeah, that's pretty much all we have to say for today's Omakecast. I'm sure Ian will be back again for more episodes.
For sure.
But, but yeah, we have lots more to talk about. in the next coming months, and we'll see you guys next time.
Have a good day.